Good evening, everyone. So Ali and I are going to have a conversation. We were thinking that we will do it from the heart. So that's how it's going to go. So Ali.
That's the best way.
Maybe. We'll see. Ali, you're a change maker, you're a peace builder. You're someone who chooses hope and life in some of the darkest moments for the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and the reality of occupation that you grew up in. So tell us a bit about your journey. Why did you choose life? How did you choose hope? How did you manage to hold on with it?
Yeah. Good evening. Thank you for having us. All of my life was about trying to find a dignified life. Just to live with freedom and dignity and security for my family, my people, and for every human being. But I was born, I found myself being a refugee, was born to a very political, active mother as a leading member of BLO. She served years in the Israeli prison. I served years as well because of my activities against the Israeli occupation. And when Oslo Peace Initiative was signed, we became very supportive of the initiative because we thought it's going to take us to our independence and it's going to take us to our vision of having two states. But with my sorrow, the process has failed, and we end up by losing my brother, who was a great human being, a dear friend, an innocent soul and father of two kids, who was just shot by Israeli soldiers. And here that was the biggest example. I mean, this darkness that you just mentioned is not new to me. Not new by my daily reality, and not new by experiencing the high price that my family and myself has paid for that land and its people. And here come another example now, how much I will, keep my humanity, because it's really easy to lose your mind. It's easy to lose your humanity when you face such events. And I was struggling from, shall I take revenge? I mean, I was trained on Kalashnikov when I was 15 years old. I know how to do it. But now it's not about my brother. I mean, it's about who has the right on earth to take my brother's life, for what? And even if I just find someone, an Israeli or a Jewish person, and just invest this anger in his or her body, will this bring back my brother? Will this bring back my people to their freedom? So I was struggling. And even though in prison I practiced nonviolence by a hunger strike with my mother for 17 days just to see each other, and we succeed. So I experienced the success of my humanity more than my physical action. So one day my mother brought Israeli families who have lost someone in the conflict, and believe me, Hiba, that meeting happens in my home in 2002. That was the first time I saw a Jewish person crying in front of my eyes. Because I grew up with this feeling that Jews has no tears, they have no humanity, until that minute. Because Israel has always succeeded to deliver force to us, but they have never delivered humanity. We don't see these people when we are stuck at checkpoints, when we live under a military horrible occupation. And suddenly I realized that I'm not the only victim on earth. Actually, the other side is a human being. And now we have a very hard mutual mission to get out of the darkness. That was a long answer, I'm sorry.
No, that was I think the perfect answer to put us in the context of what brought you to this. I mean, I think what many of us observe with Palestinians and Israelis, and I can say this as a Palestinian as well, is that for so many around us, there's so much dehumanization of the other, because all Palestinians know of Israelis, especially the younger generation. I think our generation have had some experience of people to people, because we're the generation who had Oslo at one point, and a lot of people to people programs. So we know how you can relate to the other side. But many Palestinians, all they see of the Israelis is the settler and the soldier. And for many Israelis, also all they see of the Palestinians, in their mind, it's also the lack of security. What's really hard, and I think you touched upon it, it's this sense of loss. What many don't see is that Palestinians and Israelis are trapped in a vicious cycle of loss and intergenerational trauma. And it's on both sides, 7.5 million Palestinians, 7.5 million Israelis between the river and the sea. And whenever you come together as Palestinians and Israeli peace builders, you see that there is a bond of loss and a sense of being trapped in this cycle of violence. But today, holding on to that humanity is very, very difficult. 1,600 Israelis killed, 42,000 Palestinians killed. A year into the conflict, you have 100 hostages remaining in captivity, over 1,200 settler attacks in the West Bank. So how can you, if you're asked in this context, what is peace, which is the theme of this discussion, what is peace to Palestinians today?
I think, first of all, halfway to the solution or to that answer is the right description of the problem. Because we don't describe the problem right. We describe it as victims who are one-sided. And this is definitely will not lead us to any solution. Number two, we have to remember, Israel has to remember, the world has to remember that the conflict didn't start in the 7th of October. The conflict has started many, many years ago. We as change makers, we were screaming that if this reality will continue, if this horrible leadership will continue on both sides, if this occupation will continue, if this violence will continue, we will find ourselves in hell. And this is what's going on. And if the world will keep taking sides blindly, supporting those or those at the expense of the others, were just naive two people who gave themselves free to the world politics to use them. It's at the expense of our blood. So peace for me, people will say peace is when human rights are in harmony of their life. Peace for me is not even justice, because many people will say there is no peace without justice. I don't believe in just solutions, because I'm not sure that justice is the right issue here. I believe in fair solutions, and this is what nonviolence taught me. I think peace, on the top of it, is dignity. To have a dignified life where you are on the top of control of your reality, your future, but you are able to heal the past. Because the pain has to end for us to be able to heal the past. And for me today, the political peace definitely will be based on two-state solution. And the two-state solution is the best guarantor for security in the Middle East, not just between Israel and Palestine, Lebanon, Jordan, all the bleeding, like the fire zone areas in the Middle East. And I think without standing back home for that, the world will not be able to help us. Believe me, I'm supposed to be the last person on earth who will speak about peace. I paid prices from my dream, my life, my brother's life, and I keep living there. I keep living there, I'm supposed to be the first one to hate Jews. But I know very well that as long as this hatred and lack of responsibility to manage even politics will lead us, we will just keep paying the prices of our own lives and of our own rights. So for me, this is the end, and it should be the end. And this is, Hiba, this is the limit where we can go violently, where Israel can go violently. And you mentioned generation. By the way, most of the young people who were killed in Gaza, they have never experienced what does it mean to talk to an Israeli. They were living in prison for years. They were born there. So who am I to judge them? Who am I to judge anyone? On the other hand, when we speak about kids, sometimes people ask me, you Palestinians educate your kids to hate. Oh, come on. If you live in such environment, you need a specific curriculum for hatred? It does make the job for you. If you are a Jewish Israeli kid who lives in Sderot, and he has to spend like his summer in shelters, does he need anyone to teach him how to hate us? The environment does make the job for these people.
You know, Ali, I think it's interesting to listen to you talk about it in this way, and I think one of my experiences within some of the coalition building that we've been doing on Israel Palestine, which you're part of, is the realization that Israelis and Palestinians have a very different reading of the present, very different narrative around the past. But where you start to actually find that common ground is around a vision for a future. And when you're actually not talking about peace for the sake of talking about peace, but actually talking about what are we after? What do we envision? What do we imagine for the future? And Mehra talked about some of these ideas and this articulation of some of the key principles of mutual recognition of the right of both people for self-determination, for independence, for statehood, for safety and security, for the right of both people for dignity, for the right of both people for agency, inclusion, equality, for the right of both people. But then how do you rise above this narrative of hate? Today, Israelis and Palestinians don't trust each other. The latest polls show 89% of Israelis don't trust Palestinians, and 94% of Palestinians don't trust Israelis. So how can we change that narrative? How can we work towards peace?
You know, we're in Geneva. I'm not sure that everyone trusts everyone in this country. Peace has never started with trust. Peace starts with responsibility among our own people, because this is the best servant of our own identity when we identify with peace, not war. Number two, I mean, you got it, Hiba. When Mehra launched Bait of Hope, I had the honor to meet her, but I was not expecting that this bulldozer will build such a strong organization and be able to bring Israelis and Palestinians of Geneva to work together for a better future. When you invited me to join the best initiative that promote responsibility, that frame the values of the future for peace, I think I saw your leadership. Today I say we have so many politicians, but we don't have leaders. Because politicians are managers of reality. They tell people what people like to hear. Leaders, those who serve the vision, who are not stuck with the reality or with the past, but they serve the vision. We don't have leaders. That's one of the big problems. And participating in the Principles for Peace organization with this amazing initiative about a mutual future, a mutual responsibility that you are leading, Hiba, today, is bringing, like, closing the gap about what is missing. Because we cannot just have dialogue and hug each other over hummus. This is not the nonviolence that I believe in. Yeah. We need a practical, strategic, political role that will promote freedom, independence, dignity, self-determination, recognition to both sides. Because the political peace, in my opinion, in Israel and Palestine is that these two conflicted identities has to be practiced in a fashion that no one has to pay the price of his security, dignity, or freedom. That's peace for me.
So our call today then is first to remember victims. To remember that the ones who are paying the biggest price are the civilians. Today we look at almost 19,000 orphans in Gaza. What's the future of these orphans? What's going to happen to them? We're looking at 40,000 people who have been killed in Gaza. We're looking at 1,600 Israelis. When do we say enough is enough? When do we say khalas? When do we look towards the future? When do we say we need to break the cycle of violence, of this intergenerational trauma? When do we say that it is time to move? It's time for those who want to be pro-Palestine to be pro-solution. It's time for those who want to be pro-Israel, and I put 3 lines below that, is to be pro-solution. Because many Israelis and Palestinians realize today that the status quo is not sustainable. It's not delivering security to the Israelis. It's not delivering dignity to the Palestinians. And the only way forward for these 7.5 million Palestinians between the river and the sea, 7.5 million Israeli Jews between the river and the sea, is to learn to live together or die together like idiots. There is no other way. So this is the time to be pro-solution, to be pro-peace, and to revitalize a political process that would realize the right of both people for self-determination, for independence, for statehood, for safety, for security, for dignity, for justice. Thank you very much, Ali.
Thank you. Thank you.